So what is teleportation? Well, it says that you can move things around, you know, by remote control. Kind of, it just happens and it moves from here to there. And they call it teleportation because it just moves and apparently nobody knows the cause. Okay. And here we'll start with this one. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it comes from Popeye. And here's our first proof, evidence of teleportation. And here you have Bluto, and he's going to do some action at a distance. And suddenly, you have this wall move upwards. And they all go through, all the Sinbad and his 40 thieves. And when poor old Popeye tries to get in there, well, he's upset because he doesn't know the trick. He doesn't know how it's done. And all he had to do was open sesame. Okay? And then the wall would have opened up. But he didn't know that at the time. Okay, so it took him some time to understand that. Okay, so now you know that's teleportation and action at a distance and remote control. All that's been around, at least since the days of Popeye, believe me. Okay, but here we do a teleportation here. Here's in the city of New York. A magician does this, okay? And here it is. Let me show you this. This is the trick. And the guy's going to put that thing over these 4 people, and suddenly the 4 people appear somewhere else. Pulls the string, they disappear here, and they appear over there. Okay? Now, how's that for a trick? Okay? So, yeah, this is a magic trick. And people say, was that real teleportation? Was that quantum teleportation or general relativity teleportation? Or what? No, that was a magic trick. It was a trick. They fooled you, okay? Maybe it was done with mirrors. Who knows? Magicians don't tell you their secrets. You got to find out for yourself. You got to figure it out yourself. Okay, so no problem. That's a magic trick. Does teleportation occur in reality, or only in cartoons and in under magicians' tricks? Well, let's find out. Let's go to some reliable sources. Here's what National Science Foundation says. Is teleportation possible? Yes, in the quantum world. And says, while human teleportation currently exists only in science fiction, teleportation is possible now in the subatomic world of quantum mechanics, albeit not in the way typically depicted on TV. In the quantum world, teleportation involves the transportation of what? Information. So they're teleporting what? Information, a concept. They teleport concepts. That's great. Rather than the transportation of matter. Okay, so what are mathematicians into? They're into concept. They always transfer concept. They move concepts around. They use mass to attract stars, move them around, whatever. They deal with concepts. And teleportation is not an exception. They're saying teleportation happens, but what we're teleporting are concepts. Okay? So keep that in mind. We're not transporting or teleporting matter. What we're doing is transporting, teleporting, moving concepts. Okay, so here we have one. You might say, Bill, you just pulled one out of there, out of nowhere. Okay, here's a physicist, so-called physicist, mathematical physicist, and he's going to explain teleportation to you. Okay, so I did the blah, blah, blah in the background, but I imitated every word that he said, okay, and it's also written there, so try to read as fast as you can because these videos go quite fast. Here it goes. Give me a second here. Here it goes. Listen carefully. The good news is that teleportation is real. The bad news is that at the moment we can only teleport one atom at a time. And the record for teleportation at the moment involving one atom is teleporting over a distance of 1,400 kilometers of the Chinese satellite called Mathphyz. They teleported an atom from the ground up to the satellite, so the actual atom never moved. All you do is take one atom and measure its exact properties, and in the process of measuring its properties, you actually mess it up and lose that information. But you can transmit that state to the spacecraft, and you can recreate an atom exactly the same. Okay, so they don't transfer objects. They don't transfer the atom. What they do, they mimic or they reproduce the properties of that atom in another atom. And this one is destroyed in the process. And the other one over there now is the new old atom. So they claim that's called teleportation because they transferred the properties of one atom to another atom, which is now identical to this one. I don't know how that can be because there are two different locations. So at least one property is not the same, which is location. And I think it's a very important property here, especially if the atom is at the other side of the universe. I mean, if they say teleportation occurs instantaneously, and you have one atom on this side of the universe, another one on that side of the universe, and you just transferred the properties over there, and I guess now the monkey over there is dressed in the same suit as the monkey over here. Well, that's the same monkey as this one, because one thing is different about them, and that's location. Okay, so that property was not transferred, the property of location. Okay, here's another fellow, and his name is not Mike Tyson, it's his brother. Neil Tyson. What does Neil Tyson say? Well, he says that forget about teleportation. Teleportation is easy. But he hopes one day to have a wormhole and he can slide through this one-dimensional number line and be at the other side instantaneously. It's a teleportation using the wormhole as a mechanism. Okay, so listen to the man here. We're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. Here he goes.
Teleportation? I cannot begin to tell you how game-changing that would be. What you really want is the power to open a wormhole anytime, any place. On Star Trek, they go into the transporters and beam somewhere. If they had Rick's power of portal, you just open a portal, step through, and you are where you need to be. You just step through a wormhole. I can't wait. The future when we have wormholes. The day we have wormholes, you won't need airports.
So this other fellow was saying that these people are just talking about euphemisms, figures of speech. What's this fellow talking about? What's Neil Tyson talking about? He's saying that you can go through a wormhole to another universe instantaneously. You just get into the black hole that serves as the wall, the interface, and you enter there. You go into the wormhole, and you arrive at some other place instantaneously. So we have this teleportation through the wormhole. Are these people for real? Are they talking for real? And if they're not talking for real, why are they putting this nonsense on TV, in the media, to try to convince people that they know what they're talking about? If it's not real, then what is all this nonsense? The other fellow says you can only transfer, properties. This fellow says, no, I'm going to be transferred. My body is going to be transferred through the wormhole, teleported to another universe. So what is it? Is it just concepts, or are we transferring objects like human beings? Teleporting like, Star Trek shows. You go into a teleporter, they disintegrate you here, and you appear integrated somewhere else. So let's find out. Are these people talking for real, or are they talking about, where they go to school? Hollywood University? What is this? Is this science? And yeah, this is what they feed the public. And so a lot of people believe that this is real. And so why are these people allowed? They should be censored on YouTube for, passing false information. Okay, they censor us for much less. Wonder why they don't censor these people selling garbage to the public. Okay, these people are committing crimes against humanity. That's what they're doing. Okay, so here's another famous site. It's called Minute Physics. Most of you probably heard of it or know about it. And these people say that if you're transferred, like Neil Tyson said, you transfer instantaneously somewhere else, whether through a wormhole or just teleport or whatever inside the room, is that other fellow you, or is that another fellow? Because, we're transferring all your properties, all your feelings, your headache, all your pain, your love, everything that you can think of, all your concepts in your body, transferring your concepts to this other fellow. They have to disintegrate you, because otherwise we'd be creating another you. There'd be two yous to, clone. And so they have to destroy you, and they create you over there with all your properties, whatever that is, right? All your feelings, whatever. And now you're over there. And the question is that you, the same you that started, where the experiment started. And listen to it. Here it goes. He goes quite fast, so you got to pay attention. Here it goes.
When a transporter dismantles every atom in your body and reassembles an identical arrangement of atoms somewhere else, perhaps a disassembled you actually dies, and a reassembled you is actually a new being that just thinks it's you. And if they simply hadn't dismantled the original you, then there would now be two yous in the universe. And which is really you? You or the teleported you?
Are these people kidding me? Is this science? I mean, all this is put out there as if it were science. And this other fellow says, they're talking about euphemisms. They're, presenting figures of speech. They're doing analogies. It's not the real thing. These people actually believe all this stuff. And if they don't believe it, why are they presenting it as science? I mean, this should not be in a scientific form. This should be, and they're writing papers on this, scientific papers, in the scientific literature, as they call it. I mean, this stuff is okay for Hollywood. I have no problem. They make a movie out of the stuff and say, hey, this is fantasy, this is science fiction. We love it. Yeah, I love it too. Go back to the past, see your grandfather, all that kind of stuff. I love it. But to think that this is real, like these people are presenting it in science forums, writing papers in the scientific literature, that's something else. That's totally something else, especially when they claim that they know how this universe works. When you challenge them, they say, well, you took it too literally, Bill. Yeah, physics is literal. It had better be literal. If you say there's a wall blocking the Earth from flying out of the solar system, you mean exactly that. And you can make an analogy and say, well, the wall is like the wall of Berlin, the Berlin Wall. Okay, fine, no problem. You can say something like that, but you cannot say it's time. It's like saying, like we were talking the other day about frame dragging. The Earth drags time around. And what analogy am I going to use? I can say that the dog drags my clothes around. Got him with his teeth and drags my clothes around. And we can say it drags them around like a tugboat drags a ship. Because one tugs and the other one tugs. We can all see that. We can see the similitude between the two scenarios. But when you say the dog drags seconds around like the Earth drags time around, what is the analogy? What does that analogy stand for? What is that idiocy? Especially when it's presented in a scientific forum. So that is nonsense. That is poppycock to say that. And so they don't say, well, the Earth doesn't drag time around. What they say, it drags frames around. It's a frame dragging mechanism. And people say, oh, that's so scientific, it's over my head. And what they're saying is that the Earth is dragging time around itself. And so I don't know. If you're satisfied with that, well, God help you. Okay, so what's the problem with all this teleportation and wormhole instantaneous transfer across the universe? Well, what's wrong with it is this. Here we have, and I'll just illustrate it, okay? We have a magician, and he's going to cut the lady in half. In fact, there's no magician here. It just shows that the lady is cut in half, right? And then, curtains closed, curtains open, and the girl comes out, and she's in one piece. And so it's a trick, right? It's a trick. Now, I don't recommend you do it at home with your wife or your girlfriend. Take the saw and cut her because you might really do some damage there. You need to know how the trick is done. Then you can go in there and saw, the lady in half at home. But you need to know the trick, okay? And that's the issue. And so here, let's look at this trick, this magic trick. Goes more or less like the first one there where they had that levitation, that teleportation, from one box to another of all these four people. Well, this is something similar. They're going to cut the lady in half and watch it so that you see what we have to answer, what in terms of teleportation, what the issues are. Here it is. Okay, we all see it. Saw the lady cut in half. She's put back into one piece. We have a description. We say, okay, this is what happened. Do we know why it happened? How the trick was done? So when you say teleportation, same thing. You say, okay, it was over here, and suddenly it appeared over there. I don't care if it's an atom. I don't care if it's the properties of the atom, a concept. We don't care. What was the mechanism? That's what we want to know. How was it done? How did it happen? And these people say, it happened. Okay, yeah, the lady was cut in half. It happened. But don't do it at home because you don't know how to do it. You don't know the trick. Like Popeye, he didn't know how the trick was done. How did Bluto, Sinbad, how did he pull that wall up by saying, open sesame? So this is what we need to answer. And these people are not giving you the mechanism. They're just saying it is so. But that's because that's their interpretation based on the particle model. That's why they say, well, this particle is over here and suddenly we saw it over there. Well, did you? Is that a correct physical interpretation for teleportation? Were the properties of this atom transferred over there? Well, first, we can't transfer properties, so that's not a mechanism. You can't say you transfer properties. And if you transfer the atom from here to there, what was the mechanism? How did you do that instantaneously? How did this atom suddenly appear somewhere else, destroy here, and appears here? And again, you got to give me the mechanism. Without a mechanism, you get absolutely nothing. And that's what we're missing from mathematical physics. Okay? So here we have, for example, here's for the lady cut in half. I want to show you what the difference is between a description and an explanation. Some people don't understand that. Here it is. The one on the left, that's, the description that we get from the mathematical establishment. The guy said it happened, and gives you an equation and says A is head, B is torso, and C is legs, right? And then 20 strokes of the saw, 10 seconds, 2 pieces, 2 curtains close and open. And once it opens again, the lady's in one piece. That's a description. So far, you haven't told me how it was done. Physics, on the other hand, gives you an explanation of how it could have been done. These are different theories of how the magician did the trick. In one case, the lady is below the level of the saw, underneath the stage, for example. In another case, it's 2 girls, okay, one with the legs, the other one with the head. And another one, same thing, but you can see they're in different positions. So these are different theories of how this trick was done. And that's what we're asking, for the mathematicians to explain when it comes to quantum mechanics teleportation. Tell me how the trick was done. Don't tell me it is so, because all you're saying with that is that you're interpreting that under the particle hypothesis. So you say, I had an atom here. Well, did you have an atom there? Did you locate it? Do you know for sure that atom was there? And if the properties ended up over there, you can't say the properties were transferred, because that's even worse. You can't transfer concept. And if you transfer the particle, how did you do it? Just tell me how, what the mechanism is. Okay, and that's where we fail with teleportation, as well as all these magic tricks. Magic trick, fine. You got to figure out how the magic trick was done. Especially cutting the lady in half. Don't do it at home, except in the presence of a relativist. He'll tell you how it's done. Okay, so here are the conclusions. The atom is already there, okay, in teleportation. That's what they're saying. Okay, so it's not like there was a transfer of atoms. They're saying there was already an atom at the satellite and another one here on Earth. And what they're going to do is transfer the properties from this one to that one, okay? So they're transferring the properties, right? And then they claim there's no transportation, no teleportation of matter. Okay, it's the properties that they're going to transfer, okay? And then again, Tyson says, hey, I'm waiting for the day when we transfer matter, like me. Human being from here to there, like in Star Trek. And then, again, we can't teleport concepts, but that's what they claim that they're transferring, they're transporting, they're teleporting, right? They're sending concepts from here to there. They're saying the properties are being transferred, not the matter. Okay, and so, we have a problem with that, and then we have another problem when it's instantaneous. They say from here to there, it happens instantaneously, because if I walk over there, that's not teleportation. That's normal walking. No, for it to be magic, for it to be, ooh and ah, well, then you have to transfer the object over there from one location to another instantaneously with nothing in between. That's teleportation. Okay, and so, it's an instantaneous transfer, essentially, because they're disintegrating you here, like at the teleporter in Star Trek. They're disintegrating your body here and reconstructing your body elsewhere. And hopefully, as they disintegrate each atom here, that atom is assembled over here. So that atom is being transferred instantaneously. Otherwise, this one would be disintegrating at the same time that this is integrating. Okay. And then the question is whether you can do that through a wormhole. Wormhole is one-dimensional number line. They call it a dimension, coordinate, or something like that, vector. They use all these words, meaningless words. No, it's a number line. And what they're saying is, and by the way, the wormhole, it's called Einstein-Rosen bridge. It's not a bridge at all, but they use these words such as bridge, and people think, oh, it's a bridge. Yeah, I understand. It's like a tunnel. No. The wormhole is a number line. That's all it is, a one-dimensional number line. And when you go through this one-dimensional number line, what are you going through? Is this a tunnel, three-dimensional tunnel? How do you get any matter through there? Okay, so it's absolute nonsense to begin with, but that's another version of the, of this teleportation. It's through the wormhole. You are here and suddenly you're in a different universe through the wormhole. That's the mechanism. And again, there's no mechanism there because they have no mechanism for how you were transported through a wormhole from A to B. They have no mechanism. They just show you, the rabbit going through the hole. That's all they show you. And they say, well, what speed am I going through the hole? And it turns out you appear at the other side instantaneously. So it's like you even beat the speed of light. Okay, so the million-dollar question, that's all we're interested in. By what mechanism did the mathematicians, transfer concepts? What is the trick? That's what we wish to know. And hopefully one of you fellows will be able to answer that question for me by next week.